What's going on, everybody? We are now live and we're bringing you a special podcast episode. We're going to talk about The Last Dance, Chicago Bulls / Michael Jordan documentary. It was amazing. Well done documentary. We're just jump right into it. What was your thoughts about this doc, Mike?
Honestly, I'm glad that, we're doing something different. We're kind of giving people another side of us, showing us that, we can cover other sports like basketball as well. We also are both into documentaries and films. So I thought this was a great opportunity to talk about The Last Dance, which kind of, is the best of both worlds for us. Basketball, one of the greatest teams ever, covering one of the greatest players of all time, Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And I feel like a lot of the kids these days in this new generation, obviously they remember Kobe, like like Kobe was a lot of people's Michael Jordan, but they never got to really see Michael Jordan play. And a lot of people, they only know him from the crying Jordan meme. So I think that it was good to see that this guy was really, a legend, an icon. And then seeing them like to win 6 championships in a row, basically what they did if Jordan didn't, play baseball for that short amount of time will never happen again. The closest thing that we've had in our era is obviously the Warriors, the Golden State Warriors recent dynasty, which there was actually a lot of similarities I saw, between that, how Michael Jordan came and saved the franchise as a rookie is kind of similar to how Steph Curry saved the Warriors, in my opinion. Did you kind of see that
Yeah,
parallel, or
we'll
what did you think
always
about that?
compare Clay to Scottie Pippen just because
Yes,
there's a
exactly.
comparison there. But we just so for those of you that don't know, we just watched the first 2 episodes. When I say just watched it, literally just got off episode 2 about 5 minutes ago from when I'm talking right now, so it's fresh. At a time like this where there's no sports, this is basically everything. And like the Aaron Hernandez documentary, I said I really I liked watching it. I thought it was very good. It's still not a well put together documentary. This was obvious from the get go, from the jump. I could tell this was well done documentary. Like they put real effort into this because they know it's not like they have other things pulling at them right now. So they're like, let's just go all in on this. And how could you not? Thought it was very good. But what are some things? Let's jump right. What are some like specific things you wanted to jump into? What stood out? Because we got a lot more.
Um,
Ten part series, right? We saw parts 1 and 2. I
yeah.
think 3 and 4 air next week. We'll probably do the same thing. Lots gonna happen, but there's a few things that stood out this episode, like these two episodes.
Yeah, well, I mean, one thing that I thought was pretty funny that kind of showed like how Michael Jordan could kind of laugh about how things used to be was when he was a rookie. He was telling a story about how when he first got drafted, basically when they were interviewing him for the documentary, they said, "Hey, so what do you know about the Bulls? Do you remember them being called a traveling cocaine circus like before you got there?" And he just starts cracking up, like laughing. So, I mean, I think that's pretty good that he can laugh about that because, I mean, he is a brand and it kind of alludes to the fact like he might have done it or he was around it. So, just the fact that he put himself out there and kind of like admitted that, that was going on
Let's be
during
real.
that
It's
time.
the '80s. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
from the Dallas Cowboys to the 49ers to maybe all the NBA teams were doing this drug. It was so hot. Went from 1979 and then 1982. Everyone was this drug was just so popular. Uh, and yeah, I guess that's what they were doing right before Michael Jordan stepped in.
Yeah, I mean the only thing like basically that kind of stopped that was the death of Len Bias when he passed away because of overdosing on cocaine. So I think that was like when it stopped in the 80s. But I mean that was definitely something that was very prevalent during that time. So it was kind of interesting to see what he decided to do was, hey, like I'm not going to be a part of this. He kind of like isolated himself away from the team. He kind of lived like a college student, they were saying. He just had a couple buddies around him, close friends. His mother was still, close to him, so that was pretty interesting to see that dynamic between him, a young Michael Jordan, and his older, more experienced teammates that weren't used to, having someone like him, a winner on the team.
And I kicked it with a few NBA players. Most of them really like to party. I'll tell you that. It just kind of comes with the territory. So yeah, that was. I think he kind of set the tone with that. I think it's very tempting as an NBA player because it's not quite like a football player. People don't recognize you that much. I mean, you're on a team of 46. When you're a basketball player, you're a huge star. Everyone recognizes you. You're about 6'7". So yeah, I mean that's something I didn't know about him.
Yeah, another interesting part, it kind of showed him when he was growing up, when he was in college, when he first got to North Carolina, he was just Mike Jordan. Like he wasn't even Michael Jordan yet. But then as he, grew and his game progressed, obviously you saw that he won the game. He had the game winning shot in the national championship against Georgetown as a freshman. He made that shot on a big stage, and all of a sudden, overnight, he's Michael Jordan. He's a global superstar in basketball. And then, he gets drafted by the Bulls after his junior season. And then the Olympics come and he's like the best player on the Olympic team. And that's really kind of how he arrived on the national stage.
So,
It's incredible.
something I didn't know, and guys, look, I'm not giving you guys basketball advice too much, so don't rag on me. But I didn't even know Charles Oakley was on the Bulls, and
You didn't know that?
that's towards the end of episode 2, and I didn't know. So was that trade in your mind, just like what they were saying, was that crucial for helping them
Which
win?
trade?
So I guess they traded Charles Oakley for a big man, which Charles Oakley played power forward, but I guess they traded him to the Knicks for a center, I'm assuming.
I'm not
It was
sure.
at the very end of
All I remember
episode
was
2.
you see that when he was so the first episode was about Michael Jordan primarily, but then the beginning of the second episode is really digs into Scottie Pippen and his role on the team. How he was 6'1" basically when he first got into college at University of Central Arkansas, and then he was pretty, he had some guard skills, but then he grows to be 6'7" in college. So he has the guard skills, and now he's 6'7", and he becomes, an elite prospect. Then he goes on the Bulls, and then you see that footage of him. He's kind of egotistical. He's kind of getting a big head as a rookie on the Bulls, and then you see Charles Oakley grabbing him by the neck, and he just slaps him in the face. Did you see that part?
Yeah, that was it's like that's not done anymore, those type
Yeah,
of
you
friendly
can't do
slap.
that
But
anymore.
that's where those assists come from
Yes,
with
yes. So
Scotty.
he basically invented the point forward position, which is now basically what LeBron plays in the NBA today, in the modern NBA. And then what I noticed, what I saw was I think that like Scotty wasn't as business savvy as Michael was, obviously. When he signed, he's from Arkansas, so he came from like a poor background in Arkansas. He didn't come for much. So when they show the part where he signs a 7-year deal for $18 million, which is roughly $2.5 million per year. For someone like him coming from that background, you're like, yeah, that's awesome. But then as he did that, the NBA ratings were exploding, and there was a lot of money being passed around, and it goes to show that he might not have been as business savvy to foresee this coming, and it ended up being a really bad deal because 7 years is a long time to only get being paid like less than $3 million per year for his services.
Oh, he definitely wasn't business savvy, and the tale of Scottie Pippen is now a lesson that a lot of people refer to. I just brought up something for the video viewers. What is this called? The 20 dumbest purchases ever. Number 12 is
Yeah.
Scottie Pippen buys a private jet. Uh,
Oh God, when was that?
Known as one of the NBA smartest players on the court, Hall of Famer Scottie Pippen doesn't seem to be as sharp off the court. Pippen blew $120 million, not a typo,
What?
on a number of poor investments, including the private jet pictured above in '02. Pippen paid 4.3 mil for this Gulfstream but failed to have the jet inspected prior to the purchase. If Pippen missed his scheduled inspection, he would have found out in advance that the jet needed more than $1 million in repairs. Unable to come up with the cash to repair this broken jet, Pippen was forced to leave the plane sitting on the runway. Hey, Scottie, you're better off leaving the air stuff up to MJ. And actually, no, the end of this story, he went through court for a long time and ended up getting a very, very small percentage. And then there's a picture of him smiling coming out of court. I'll just save you all that. But
Wow,
he was just
I
good
didn't
enough
know
to get
that.
like whatever it was, like 400K or 700, whatever the settlement was. Like they just paid him
Yeah.
enough to just close things. And yeah, so a lot of what this contract too that I didn't know much about. I know a lot about the Jet for some reason, but yeah, the tale of Scottie Pippen is well known for players, and now players are more savvy now because of guys like Scottie Pippen, who was maybe the second best player, top five best player in the NBA, and just getting paid basically. I mean, I was shocked when I saw that part. I didn't know six highest paid player on the Bulls and 120 something highest
Yeah,
paid
122nd highest player in the
NBA.
league when he
That's
was
just
arguably the second best player in the league behind
so
Jordan.
so with we saw with Julio, very very small example. They ripped up his contract and gave him a new. No, was that no? They did that with Julio, but I think they did that with Roddy White. Actually, a big one. They did it with Julio, but that's a very very tiny deal. So when Roddy White was getting paid peanuts, the Falcons just ripped up his contract and gave him a new one. It was like, you're deserving of this. Why didn't they do that with Scottie Pippen?
That I don't know. That I
Well,
don't
the
know. They
the
should
the
have.
guy, they're making this guy out to be a
Oh,
villain.
Jerry Krause. So they were
Jerry
saying
Krause
Jerry
is such a
Krause.
villain
Yeah.
in this.
So yeah, such a villain. It kind of shows like, there's really the business side of basketball behind the scenes. Like you don't typically get to see. Like this is really on the front page in this documentary. Jerry Krause, he basically drafted Jordan. He drafted Scottie. He made very savvy front office moves, and he thought he should deserve a lot of credit for all those moves that resulted in 6 championships. But, obviously Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and the players, they felt that players are the ones that win championships. So, you have Scottie being underpaid. You have Phil wanting to be paid like one of the top coaches, which he wasn't at the time. And Jerry Krause refused to pay that. So his mindset is, hey, like you sign a contract. It looks archaic now in modern times when players are very empowered and can do whatever they want and basically dictate the terms like LeBron does nowadays, and then Anthony Davis type. But basically, he said you signed the deal, which was the 7 years, $18 million deal. You have to, I don't want to hear from you. Basically, that's what he said. So he just said, honor the deal. So, nowadays, if you did this in modern times, Scottie would probably tell his agent to renegotiate or hold out or what have you. But, that's just not how the culture was back in the NBA
Yeah, it was
back then.
different, and it's just such a how whack of a deal is that? It sounds so terrible to me. 7 for $8 million. I mean,
It's
what?
probably better now when you adjust for inflation. Like it's probably more like 7 years, like 6 mil a year. It's not as bad, but is grossly undervalued still.
Yeah,
So because you think about it, like he's taking home 2.5 mil, right? And then the government's gonna take like let's say half. So really, he was getting paid $1 million at the height of his peak of his prime for 7 years. You know what I mean? Like that's terrible. And if you don't have the business savvy off the court, like I'm sure he didn't have the endorsements that Michael had,
yeah.
with McDonald's, Nike, etc., to really capitalize on his fame. So, there's a good chance that he retired with not as much money as you would think. And that's what forced him to make these bad deals.
Man, that's just oh my god, that's just crazy how things can play out. And like I said, this tale is just a lot of NBA players just know what's up because of Scottie Pippen, the contract martyr, the business the business martyr, the private jet buying martyr.
I know. Imagine people like today, the contracts they get today is just like obscene. Like Pippen would, you know, that's why he's probably really sad today.
We have
I
one
don't know how
we
he
have
makes
one
it.
person chiming in. This is a good one, I think.
Ooh,
Scuba says, "Listen, I grew up watching the Bulls run for 6 championships. Scottie was not a top 10 player in the NBA, especially the last 3 reigns. I wouldn't have put him in the top 15, 20. So let's just, off the top really quick, let's just name like up to 10 players right around that time. Charles Barkley, or we could just look at the Dream Team, right?
Yeah, just look at the Dream Team. Let's start there. But he's definitely one of the best players.
He was on the Dream Team. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I don't agree with that, but
so
I mean,
where would you just put it like a ballpark? Where would you put him? Like top 5,
put him in
top
the top 10.
Top
Top
10.
10, hands down, without any hesitation. I mean, top 5 you can argue. Obviously, anyone can argue that.
Yeah.
Top 10, you can't argue that.
So I wouldn't have put him in the top 15, 20. So right now, look, I know there's not a lot going on right now for we're not super busy right now. Since you said top 15, 20, you have time right now. List off 15 that are better. I'm just saying, like, and I'm not trying to be like, I mean, seriously, like, what are we doing right now? List 15 players. Let's go. I mean, if you need some help, look up the Dream Team because there's some really good players on there.
I mean, people just want to be contrarian, but especially if you've watched him, you should know better than that.
But I'm really curious to know like where are you gonna come up with like 11?
Me or this guy?
No, Scuba would come up with the 11 to 15 because
no
after the 10, like who's the 11? Like give me the 11 to 15. That's kind of
give me those.
That's kind of tough. Scottie Pippen, Hall of Famer. You know.
Yeah, that's not true. That's fake news, Scuba.
Andrew, I think people don't appreciate enough what Pippen did for the Bulls. Even today, no one really thinks of Pippen as one of the best to ever play. But without Pippen, Jordan might have no rings.
Wow, very bold.
Every ring Jordan got, Pippen was his teammate, correct?
That is correct. As far as I believe, yes.
Okay.
And he almost won one without Michael Jordan, I believe. He got to the playoffs and I think went to the Eastern Conference Finals without Jordan the year when he was playing baseball.
That's a pretty big deal because Jordan is so good.
Yeah.
It's like the Lakers doing it without Kobe.
Right. So,
it's like
they did do it without Kobe, but yeah.
I mean, during Kobe's prime.
Sure.
During Kobe's prime, he just was like, you know what? I'm gonna play minor league baseball real quick. Be right back, guy. BRB. BRB. Exactly. Fisher, peace out, real quick. Derek Fisher, hold on, my golf club.
Yeah, that's honestly a good analogy. Which could like if you think about like if you did that in today's climate, like imagine LeBron James was like, you know what, everybody, I'm out. Like not even now, but like 4 years ago in his peak, and he was just like, yeah, I'm out. I'm gonna play baseball. Like that would be insane. Like people would freak out if that happened. Like if he played football for a year.
It was a big deal, and I was so young during the time, but I remember Time magazine article that I kind of read. I had ADD as a kid, so I that's like the most I've read of an article was Michael Jordan retirement. It was what it was, right? Was it technically he said he was retiring?
He retired.
Okay.
Retire.
And that was all over Time magazine and I was reading it. So it was a big deal, but is it just because there's no internet, just because we can't.
There was no social media.
We couldn't see on social media. We combine our thoughts. The group is always smarter than the single brain. And so is it because we just couldn't combine? We couldn't form a conspiracy theory within 2 seconds. Like Epstein, 2 seconds. You're like, he didn't kill himself. Like it's so quick. Like, was that it? Was it just we were just like 5 years late, 10 years late to the news?
So I don't know. I mean. I think it was all smoke screen. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about the Mike Francese conspiracy theory about the mob and his dad, but
we could. That's gonna come up. I think that's gonna come up. It'll probably come up. What episode
of the doc
next week?
Talk about it. I don't think they're gonna talk. Oh, they have to talk about it. You're right. I'm tripping. They have to talk about it. So maybe we'll just save it for.
Honestly, I think it's the biggest deal out of this. His retirement. And the conspiracy is the biggest deal to me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they have to talk about it, I'm just saying. So I think we should save it because obviously if we do more shows about this, like
we have comments on both sides actually of Scuba's argument. DQ says he's sort of right. For the last 3 reigns, Pippen wasn't top 10 necessarily, but he would have been like 12, 13 at worst. Pippen had an effect on the game that few have had. He wasn't a top 10 player, though he was close for like
But
one
what's your
for one
how are
let me
you
read let me read this
guarding
and then
that?
for 1 year of his
Okay.
reigns, but he had a bigger impact than 9, 10 players in front of him. I don't what does that mean?
That's what
I
I'm
didn't
saying.
get
Like, what
that
does that
one.
mean?
I
What's your
mean,
criteria? That's what I'm
yeah, that's a
like
bit
saying.
like I mean an impact as a and he's a second fiddle and having an impact that kind of makes me think he's better.
Yeah.
All and then you had that one baseball year that you just mentioned. That's a good argument.
Right.
Also, do you believe that Jordan got suspended for gambling? And we're gonna talk about that. Okay, here we go. Here's Scuba's list. Thank you. Now, Scuba, like that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, I wasn't trying to be combative. Like I really want to know because you know when someone's a top 15, you know when someone has a
Yeah,
hot
yeah,
take.
yeah.
Like, hey, we got time. Let's rank them. Okay, so
Yeah, yeah,
here's
yeah.
his list, bro. 90 to
Okay.
98. Okay, listen
Okay.
carefully. Here we go.
All right. Here we go.
Hakeem Ewing, Barkley,
Okay.
Malone, David Robinson,
Okay.
Mutombo, David Robinson,
Tumbo. I don't know about that.
Drexler,
Okay.
Miller,
Okay.
Payton,
Okay.
Magic, Wilkins.
Oh, Magic? I don't know about that. During the last 3 rings, Magic wasn't even in the league, right? Or was
I
he?
just remember the Dream Team. Mike Magic Johnson was
The
getting
last
up
three
there.
years of the league, though, you can't say that Magic was better than Scottie. Like, was he even in the league? Wasn't he already retired by then because of HIV? Like, that name's
Thomas,
questionable.
Morning, Shaq,
No.
Stockton. There's 15. There was a couple years he was top 10, but overall for the era, 90 to 98, I wouldn't say Pippen is top
I
10
don't
to
know.
15. Impact, and
Uh,
then so there's two different guys. So that's Scuba with his list. DQ is the one talking about the three.
Mutombo? You really think Mutombo's better than
That one
Scottie
I'm that one
Pippen? The
I mean
hell?
that one I don't want to be
That one's
combative, so that one I'm
crazy.
just throwing. That one's
That's
not even.
crazy,
I
bro.
shouldn't even read that. I feel like
Yeah, I was like,
that one's not
Mutombo.
even like.
That just
Uh,
ruined all his credibility before he said when he said
Matumbo,
Mutombo.
like,
I was like,
dude, come
what?
on, Matumbo, like, I like it. I like the commercials. What was it, Geico commercials? Like, I like it, but
No, I don't know.
Impact. That one, yeah, bro, stop. Impact. He's Scottie Pippen. Come on. Impact
I was
as
like,
in.
what?
So you define impact as in he had a bigger impact on the game of basketball as a whole more than a
All right,
lot of those
I'm
people.
done with this argument. He's wrong. It's okay. Let's move on.
Andrew says Pippen did all the dirty work for Jordan when they won their championships. I'm not saying Jordan would have no rings without Pippen, but I think at the most Jordan would have
He
three
might not have
if
any.
Pippen never played with Jordan.
That's fair to say, you know? That's
Yeah.
fair to say. Another part was interesting about that on the last year. So they were saying like Scotty was trying to kind of basically hold out. So he could have got a surgery after their fifth championship, but instead of doing that, he kind of like he didn't get it. He thought he could kind of renegotiate or something. So
So,
he wasn't ready to start the sixth season. You know, he wasn't healthy. He was still recovering. So Michael had to kind of carry the team in the beginning of the season without Scotty. So that was an interesting dynamic that I didn't know
and you
before
said
the
kind of
documentary.
holdout. I think it wasn't like a holdout. Or was it?
No, he was basically kind of like, "Hey, like I'm not
Is that like
gonna
passive
get the
aggressive? I
surgery."
honestly don't even
Yeah,
know
I
what
think it
that
was
word
passive
means.
aggressive. I think it was.
Something like that's what I mean. Like it was a half holdout. It was like it's like kind of what I do when I want to like procrastinate or ignore the situation. You know what I mean? When I don't want to
Yeah,
face something head on, I kind
right.
of am just like whatever. I'm not. It's like not answering the phone. You know,
Yeah,
yeah, I ain't gonna deal with this head on. But I'm not really playing for y'all either. But I'm not really holding out. I'm just gonna show that I'm frustrated.
right. Exactly. That's exactly. And then Michael was like, I mean, he knew that, that his contract wasn't gonna get changed. So he's like, he didn't understand why Scotty was even doing this in the first place. He's like, there's no point. So you might should have just got the surgery, and then we could have just started the season like fully healthy. So he thought it was like a
You know what?
dumb
We
decision.
gotta talk about Francis. I mean, we gotta just talk about it. Like, who cares, right?
Okay,
It is what it is.
talk
We don't
about
know
it.
what's gonna happen tomorrow. So, because
That's true.
I feel like that's. I mean, when you told me about this, what's funny is you told me about this documentary, and I was like, look, I know Jordan's like, I know like he's kind of a jerk, and he may not have been the best person. And Michael Jordan, a lot for my life, I always wanted to be number one. I'm always competitive. I was always insane. When I did music, I always wanted to be the number one music producer. I just was like that. But Jordan, when I heard a lot of his stories just more recently, last like 5, 6, 7 years, I was like, do I really want to be number one, or do I want to be happy? And I was like, this guy's life is kind of a mess. It's kind of all over the place. I'm sure there was times where he wasn't happy. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be competitive and always strive to do my best and be maybe strive to be number one, but I'm not going to be obsessed with this number one or failure anymore. I'm going to focus on my happiness. And I thought, because since you're such a huge basketball fan, I thought I thought you were going to be like, shut up, like you don't like what. I thought I was going to have to convince you that MJ was a a-hole. But you're
No,
the one that showed me so much more when we first talked about. I was like, "Whoa! I didn't know he was that bad. I didn't know
yes.
idea." So you made me think he's even more of a jerk and more of a pos and more of a bad human. At least I'm not gonna judge him as I don't know him, but say he's made some disgusting, terrible mistakes in his life at the
Hmm.
very least, and I didn't even know it was that bad. So we got to talk about that. That's coming up, whatever it is, episode 3, episode 4, maybe
Yeah,
episode 5. I don't know, there's
sure.
10 of them. It's going to come up, and it's going to be probably
Right.
the most talked about. So we'll talk about what we know, what we think we know right now. And what we're referring to, guys, is the quote unquote, making quote marks, bunny ears, this retirement slash conspiracy suspension. So just talk about it, Mike. There was 1 year or 18 months where
Yeah.
Jordan retired.
So yeah, so after the
Let's
first
start off with
three
the facts
championships.
on the surface. Okay, go ahead. That's
Okay,
what you were doing. Go
so
ahead.
yeah, I don't. Okay, so I mean, I don't know if you want to Google the exact dates, but I'll just
It's
give a
fine.
high
Don't
level
matter. Yeah.
overview. For the first three championships, after the first three championships, Michael retires mysteriously, right? But during around that time, after the third championship, I believe his father got murdered, and so I think they found him. The police found him in a car, but he was murdered, and I think they found the killers, but they had some connection to the mob. And the reason why I know this is because the past year or so, I got really into like mob movies and mob culture, and I kind of I ran into some YouTube videos, specifically Michael Francese, he was in the Colombo crime family. And he's the only mob member to successfully leave the mafia life, without getting killed. He did go to prison, but basically, there's YouTube videos if you Google it, Michael Francese on Vlad TV, and he talks about how Michael Jordan, the reason why he had to retire and play baseball is because he had a gambling problem. It's widely known that Michael Jordan is one of the most competitive people on the face of earth. And if you don't know that, I don't know where you've been the past few years, but it's quietly widely known. I've read a lot of biographies. I read Tiger Woods' biography, and he talks about his relationship with Michael Jordan and how Michael Jordan told him how to, like, basically meet women and gamble and bet on certain things in sports. So he has that personality. That's just him. He'll compete in anything. He'll gamble anything. And I guess he thought he was untouchable. He was too big, and he made a bet. I think it was in golf or something, some sport. And he bet a against a mob member, and he didn't pay that guy back. Whatever the bet was, it wasn't clear what the bet was, but so the mob had to send him a message that, hey, you're not too big, So they put a hit out and they whacked his father, James Jordan, and that's what the story goes. How Michael Francesi said it on camera, and because of that, the NBA had to say, hey, like, they knew about it behind closed doors, but they didn't know how to spin it to the public. They kind of wanted to cover it up, so they said, hey, Mike, you got to get away from the NBA for a while till things cool down. Things are hot right now, so he decided that he would play baseball because that's what he grew up playing before he fell in love with basketball, and that's what his father wanted him to play. So it's kind of like, doing it in honor of his father. So that is basically, in a nutshell, the conspiracy. And a lot of people might not know that, but I truly believe that to be true.
Well, Michael Jordan, we're talking about the greatest NBA player of all time, and whatever, if you don't think so, that's fine. He's one of the greatest, but he just stopped in his prime and played baseball. Like, if that ain't a conspiracy, and how good was he in baseball, Mike?
Terrible. He played for the Birmingham Barons, like I don't know, triple A, single A. I honestly have no idea, but
Yeah, and
he
it's
was
just
bad.
like, come on, dude. Like, that has to be there has to be a real conspiracy behind that, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
You know. By the way, Scuba's getting dealt with by the chat, so that's why I didn't. There was a bunch going on, but I figured. Like I was saying, like I'm not, I really want to know people's takes, and I want them to give a chance to prove themselves. But after that, we gotta move on, Scuba.
We gotta move on, bro.
But yeah, they're really dealing with him.
It's a losing battle. It's a losing fight.
That's just crazy. When do you think we'll get into that? What episode? I don't know why I'm so focused, but
has to be in the middle, like probably by episode 4.
There's 10 of these, bro.
I know. That's why I said episode
crazy.
4. It'll probably be around that time. We were already 2 down. It's only been, it's the first night. We're 2 down, so there's probably gonna be 3 more of these or 4 more of these. Right?
I just emailed you. Check this image, right here. What's the GM's name?
Krause,
Jerry Krause. So this is they got a Twitter world got a really good one on him right now, like really good. Just open that up. Really quick. I'm showing the video feds. Okay. So open it up and describe to the people what you see. I retweeted it, guys, for those of you that are listening.
Jerry Krause, and if you don't know what he looks like, he's a overweight, short man, and he's like smiling with his little beady eyes, and he has a big.
I'd say grinning.
Yeah, he's grinning with beady eyes and a big fat neck roll, so you can't really see his chin. He has no chin. And then right next to him is the bad guy from Space Jam who like hires all the aliens to play
making evil GM moves in Space Jam.
Yeah, making evil GM moves. Like, I think that was based on him. Oh yeah, this had to be.
Bro, it's MJ in the movie.
Yeah, this is for sure based on him. Damn.
That's what Twitter's been talking about, but this is I found the perfect tweet though. You know what I mean? They've been talking about this ever since he hopped on in episode 1.
He was roasting him too. He'd be like, "Oh, you're too short." Like, he was hella. I don't know how tall he is, but he's like, "Hey, you want to shoot layups with us, Jerry?" He's like, "Oh, I gotta put the rim down for you." Like, he was an asshole to Jerry Krause, which is funny, Do you see that?
What?
In those scenes where he was like picking on him.
Yeah, man, that's wild back then. I don't know.
Like, imagine someone doing that now, like Curry just like punking.
Scottie Pippen got slapped. Yeah, you punking the GM, talking about those diet pills ain't working or something. Like, oh my god, this is just like, it was crazy. But I guess you can expect. I don't know. Actually, like, you just like, okay, the Spurs were a pretty big dynasty in the best, and you just can't picture anything like this on the Spurs. But this was wild, man.
Chip on the Spurs. Yeah, but it's good to see. Like, it's crazy that they sat on this footage for like years. You know what I mean? Like, someone pitched the idea to, all right, let's film the last season of the Bulls. And they film it all. They film the whole season, and then after that, they don't even use the footage till 2020. That's crazy.
I heard this. I don't know. I just saw it online that I don't know if it was. I honestly don't know if it was a meme, like more of a joke, or if it was more a fact, or if it was. I don't know. I don't get it. But it said Michael Jordan didn't allow this footage until the Cavs. Like, he didn't give permission to air it.
I saw that.
Until the Cavs won. Because
petty.
This is what I saw for sure. I'm pretty sure. When people kept comparing MJ to LeBron several years ago, MJ was like, okay. All right, just come to me when he wins a ring. And so he won a ring, and so now now is he?
He's like, all right, now I gotta like show people.
I was like, now you guys can release the footage. It's been how many years this footage has been sitting?
Since 98.
22 years?
Yeah.
Jeez, 22 years.
In a vault, just sitting there for now.
I mean, that's a smellier vault than the Ted Bundy documentary on Netflix. I mean, jeez, man.
That's kind of crazy. And it's like it's crazy like the timing, like, obviously rest in peace Kobe Bryant. He passed away and then they were going to have this out. He's in the documentary, by the way. So that's going to be just surreal to see Kobe in the documentary when that time comes, talking about it like he's back, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Kobe
Um
came onto the scene and told Shaq like I'm gonna be just like Michael Jordan, and
I mean
he
better than
just
Michael.
really is just one comparison to MJ. It's just crazy how those two are so similar. And Kobe mentality, I think that derives from Jordan's mentality. And oh man,
Without Michael Jordan, there's no Kobe Bryant, I
yeah,
think.
oh
Like, he
yeah,
paved the way and inspired a young Kobe Bryant in Italy to become what he became and, a legend and icon. And like his speech at Kobe's funeral was on, I didn't expect that. Like, I thought he would be like, the Hall of Fame Michael Jordan, the petty Michael Jordan, but he kind of started off like that. He called him a nuisance in the beginning, but then he like turned it around and then he made it honestly one of the greatest speeches in a few or memorial of all time that I've ever seen. Like, if you listen to that speech, it's hard not to like think about crying because it's just moving.
Lo-
Just a goat talking about another goat like that.
a lot of people are talking about who's the GOAT of the NBA, and honestly, this conversation like totally turns me off. But and people are why we still talking about this. I mean, at a time like this, look, I'm gonna give you guys a pass to argue about LeBron, MJ, whatever the hell you want, because I get it. There's no sports. All we got is this documentary. So yeah, you guys could go and talk about it. I'm like interested in other things. Like I'm fully into this documentary, just enjoying it and enjoying the fantasy football Madden league we got going on, and just keep pushing out content. We're just this past 6 days, I think I've been just straight grinding, like every day, pushing out at least probably like 2 videos per day.
Wow,
It's
hard
just
work.
just all of a sudden I'm like, cause it's I feel like it's due, like the people deserve it. Like it's my duty. I'm a content creator. It's my duty to give it to the people, and I think ESPN, who I make fun of a lot, like I feel like they did the same thing, and it's not just it was basically just to get ratings during this bad time, but it's like they got an obligation too to entertain the people. Sports is probably the greatest distraction from just normal life, whether it's a crappy 9 to 5 or whether something's going on in the house or any type of distraction, or just get off work and have a beer and watch sports. And pretty much it doesn't really matter if you're rich or poor, you can always enjoy sports no matter what. Watch it at your friend's house, watch it at a bar. Everyone can enjoy it, everyone can let loose. And I'm just giving ESPN props, and whoever else helped with this, Michael Jordan or whoever in the Bulls had to okay this, I'm giving them props for making this happen at such a drought. And it's like such a well done documentary. Everyone's fire on it. Everything's fire, from the footage to the narration to the editing, to the music. I even love the music
Oh,
they
music's
played. Yeah,
fire.
it's absolutely fire. Like they
Crazy.
picked the right songs from that era. Absolutely
Oh
loved it.
no, I'm wearing my gold hip hop chain because in honor of Michael, when you see that footage of young Michael when he first came on the Bulls, he was always wearing a gold chain. There's that footage you saw him playing against Danny Ainge, golf before their second playoff game against the Celtics, and he's wearing his gold chain and just, he's just so swaggy. He has so much confidence and swagger for a young player. Like, he's basically like Kobe was, he just believed in himself and they ended up being one of the greatest players of all time. So incredible footage, incredible documentary that's only going to get better and we'll have more to talk about, as it unfolds.
Yeah, and a total global superstar. When I would travel overseas when I was a kid, everyone knew who Michael Jordan was. Like whoever the best athlete was in their country was like not like, absolutely nothing. Michael Jordan was because all of us grew up with MJ. We're in the U.S., so everyone was
Yeah.
damn near a Bulls fan. Everyone was a Jordan fan, but it was like that way in Europe, everywhere. Everyone was a Jordan fan across the universe, and there's only been a few athletes that have kind of achieved that. I saw that with Kobe as well. My cousin would be like, "Get
Yeah.
me a Kobe jersey, give me." I'm like, dang, you guys know? He's like, of course we know who Kobe Bryant is. Like, what are you talking about? So
The one thing I will say when it comes to comparing Michael Jordan and LeBron as far as who's the greatest, there's one statistic that always comes out as the trump card when you make this argument. It's kind of hard to argue if you really put it into context like this. So in finals games, appearances, Jordan 6-0. Perfect. Guess what LeBron is?
pretty bad.
3
Batted
and 5.
3-5.
So right there, I mean, if you want to have like the definitive who's better than who, you put that out there, and it's kind of hard to argue. You can argue it, but the greatest of all time, 6-0, arguably the greatest, three
Well,
and
I
five.
agree with you, but then we're just to be devil's advocate, we're also arguing that Scottie Pippen was top 10, top 15. So he had him.
Yeah, I mean,
And then LeBron sometimes didn't. LeBron sometimes had Delonte West.
yeah, but he also had the second best shooting guard of all time, arguably Dwayne Wade. He had one of the top power forwards of all time, talent wise, Chris Bosh. He's had Shaq. He's had, you can't really make that excuse. He has right now, arguably one of the greatest power forwards who will ever play the game, Anthony
That
Davis.
one they won on Miami was such a huge, like, crazy comeback. It was the one where the fans were leaving
Yeah, and
the
then Ray
game,
Allen
right?
hit the
Yeah,
game winner
and he
on the
won that
corner.
one. And then another one he beat against our Warriors was a little bit
That was worth
was
like
a
two.
small conspiracy though with the
That's true.
Not even given an excuse because they won it like they did. I still didn't think they would win, so they proved themselves. They did well,
Yeah,
but the Draymond thing was a bit of a conspiracy since
it was.
Draymond did the same thing against the Thunder. But to make it Game 7, Draymond doesn't get suspended. He does the same thing
Yeah.
again to make it game set to elongate the series. He gets suspended, and it's
And
just kind
also
of like,
LeBron complained too, by the way, to the league, and that's also what got Draymond suspended. That was part of it that LeBron lobbied to get him suspended. So that's another thing that Jordan probably never would have done that LeBron did. You can look at it, however, but there's honestly no way to definitively say. But
we
if
can
if you're
simulate in
of this
2K,
generation,
right? We
if you're
simulate.
this generation, LeBron's your Michael Jordan. If you're born 10 years earlier, you're always gonna say Michael Jordan's better than LeBron. Like I'm never gonna say LeBron's better than Michael Jordan because I grew up in an era when I've seen it both. My first half of my life it was Michael Jordan, and then the middle it was Kobe, and then now it's been LeBron for the past second half of my life. So yeah, like it just depends on who you watched and who you grew up watching.
Yeah, I guess so. These guys, there's like 5 people watching, and they're all going, all of them, all of them are going crazy.
That's good. I love it.
So really quick, the trade on this date, Bill Cartwright was traded to the Bulls, and Charles Oakley was
That
traded.
didn't mean anything. That was a meaningless trade.
Okay.
So don't worry.
Okay, and
Well, they traded for Scottie Pippen. He was originally supposed to be on the Supersonics. I found that interesting with the 5th overall pick, and somehow Jerry Krause moves up to get
they
him.
got him right
So that was
away.
a
So
great move.
they were interviewing him. How does it feel to be the 5th pick? And then the trade happened, right? Did
Yeah,
I got that right?
yeah, yeah. He had his Sonics hat on, and they were like, "Oh, by the way, you're wearing the wrong hat," which happens quite often in today's day. But I'm sure that didn't happen that often. Like draft day trades at the top of the draft back then must have been more rare. I would assume.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the best comment from Andrew Nelson. Says, every week now we're gonna have this debate. Shake my head. LeBron, Pippen, Jordan. Like it's gonna be every week. Come tune in next 5 weeks. We can argue who's the GOAT. Is Scottie Pippen top 15? And LeBron, yeah, LeBron.
We haven't even seen the
Hey,
Rodman part of this whole
yeah,
debate. That's
Rodman. Rodman's
crazy.
life itself is insane. And someone mentioned
Insane.
the Detroit Pistons 30 for 30. That was an insane 30 for 30.
Ooh.
And I'm sure we're going to get into that a little bit from a different perspective, which is going to be crazy. Because I think that was a little bit, that was from the Pistons perspective.
Yeah, of
They
course.
talked a lot about the Jordan rules and a lot of
Yep.
things about the Bulls, of course, and then how Jordan just, what's that, Super Saiyan, whatever. I don't watch any anime, but Jordan just went berserk. and just
Yeah.
transformed and
If
unleashed it, and the Jordan rules I don't think worked.
if it wasn't for the Pistons though, he might have won even more. Like, the Pistons kind of stopped him from getting to a couple championships because they were in the East.
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
that was a bloodbath. They were beating. That's why he hired that trainer Tim Grover, which I'm sure they'll show in the future episodes. That kind of built his body. He was skinny when he first entered the league, and then when he played against the Pistons in these battles, like he would take a beating. So he knew he had to rebuild his body from the ground up. So he hires Tim Grover, who was not a famous trainer, but he gives him a chance. So Tim Grover, he had a master's in exercise science. You know what he had to do? He wrote every single member of the Bulls at the time, except Michael Jordan. He wrote them a handwritten letter asking if he could work with them and be their trainer. And he didn't get any replies back except one guy who was on the organization saw the letters and was like, and then talked to Michael about it. And they're like, hey, we might have one guy for you. And then he ends up going to his house and it ends up being Michael Jordan. So the one guy that he did not write to becomes his greatest client of all time.
is that
And
who trains friend of the
Tim,
couch, Tyreek, too?
no, that's Lamont Peterson, or was Lamont Peterson.
Oh,
But
shoot.
yeah,
Someone else, though. Someone. No, no, no,
he
no, no.
traded
He
Dwayne
goes
Wade.
to LA to train basketball. Lamont
No, that's a
Peterson
different
trains
guy.
strength and conditioning.
Oh no, you're talking about Rob McClanahan. That's
That's a
different.
different guy.
Yeah, it's a different guy. He's more of the younger generation. But Tim Grover he worked with obviously all the Bulls, Kobe, Dwayne Wade. Those are more of the old school guys. But Rob McClanahan is a famous trainer now in LA who he worked with Tyreek, Derrick Rose, Eric Gordon, Russell Westbrook, the Lopez twins, on and on. So he's another famous trainer.
We got a new subscriber, Blake. Thank you so much.
What's up, Blake?
Guess he loves it. Yeah, guys. I think let us know if you want us to do this every week. Let me know in the live chat. Let us know in a comment. Obviously, we do fantasy football and NFL, but right now I thought this was perfect. And right, like I said, right when I saw the documentary, first 4 minutes, I was like, this is great. And I could just tell it was amazing. Even if it was shot and edited like not as good, I still would love it. And so it exceeded my expectations. In NFL news, we got a draft is this Thursday. It's gonna go crazy. So same time, same bat channel, same bat time, boys and girls. But I think it's gonna be from Roger Goodell's basement. I don't know. Can someone
Wait,
fact check?
really? The NFL draft is this Thursday?
Yeah, it's the
Wow.
23rd. Today's the 19th. Our fantasy football Madden draft is tomorrow, 420. So that's gonna be crazy. That's
My
crazy.
mom's birthday. Shout out Gloria Matal.
That's a
Happy birthday.
happy birthday, Mike's mom. Man, that's gonna be tomorrow's draft's gonna be crazy. So for those that don't know, guys, we're doing a 2020 fantasy football league, but we're playing out the season via Madden. So we're gonna do head to head, kind of March Madness, single elimination tournament style, and so basic strategy. I think quarterbacks. It's the first 3 rounds will be simulated, and the last round will be played out by me and Mike. And so I think in this league, what's going to really differentiate is your QB1 is going to be super important.
Hmm.
And because that's the guy who distributes everything to your team. And I think the defense is going to be pretty important because you get the entire defense. You get a lot of special teams players, extra depth players, the head coach playbook, and the O line and the uniform, which probably doesn't matter too much. But you get that whole shebang.
Who has the highest rated defense on Madden?
I don't know off the top of my head, and it's all complicated because we're so late in the season with the updates. I know the Bears had probably the top defense before the updates. Now I don't know who has the top defense. I know the Saints like have a good overall score.
Mm.
There's Eagles probably do. There's a ton of them. I think the Patriots are still up there because it's
Okay,
from January 2020.
interesting.
So yeah, that's gonna be a crazy draft, and we're gonna film it. But Man, let's see what's up. Also, there was a quote that a lot of people didn't really see, and this is, there's not a lot of sports going on, so I just want to make sure that everyone saw this quote from Patrick Mahomes. This is old too, not gonna lie. This is a month and a half old. Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes says he didn't learn to read defenses until last year, and it's just scary. I don't see a reason for him to lie about that. So he's just that talented, man. And now that he's able to read defenses, and we really seen him turn it on towards the end of the season, in the playoffs, and in the Super Bowl. And man, it's just scary. I mean, we've seen the next superstar as far as quarterbacks. Like when people look at prototypical quarterbacks, they're gonna look at Patrick Mahomes.
Oh yeah, he's revolutionizing the game. I saw him in person come back and beat the Niners, in the fourth quarter. I don't know. He's gonna be an all-time great, and Kansas City's lucky to have him for sure.
Yeah, nobody really attacked me or anything, but I thought it was a little risky when I said this a year or two ago when I was like, look, we're seeing Aaron. It was right after Mahomes' second year, so right after the first year he was the starter. I was like, look, we just saw Aaron Rodgers 2.0 because he's like exactly like Rodgers, except has a stronger arm, runs
More
faster,
athletic.
makes more disgusting plays, just more talented, but plays very similar to Rodgers. It's like basically you went in Madden, you got Rodgers, and then you boosted every stat a little bit. A little more speed, a little more awareness, a little bit more trick shots or whatever you want to call it, trick plays or a no-look pass, whatever you want to call it, more throwing power, everything. Just insane, and that's exactly what Patrick Mahomes is. So it's going to be scary how Mahomes is going to be for the next 10 plus years. I have him in Dynasty, and I have Saquon in Dynasty, so I'm very, very excited.
Nice.
Nothing there.
Can't wait. Can't wait for the draft. Yeah.
Armin says, thanks. Looking forward to the draft. We shall see.
Like, when do you take a quarterback in this draft? That's like the thing I'm trying to figure out.
It's important because that's probably
Like, do you
because
reach?
yeah, I think so. I think he's gonna distribute. So in this Madden league, the quarterback you draft is going to be the quarterback for your team. He's going to be the quarterback that hands the ball off to your running backs and the quarterback that throws the ball to your wide receivers and tight ends and your running backs. And he's going to be the quarterback to get you in the red zone, to get you within field goal range, to get you in positions to score touchdowns. We know that a vast majority of touchdowns are scored within the 10-yard line. So you got to get there first. You got to get in the red zone. You got to get within the 20, within the 10-yard line. And your quarterback's really the main guy who's going to get you there. What I would believe. I haven't simulated a ton of games on Madden, so I don't know. But I assume the quarterback's going to be a big part of that. And then, like I said, QB1 is going to be very important. QB2 is basically worthless. RB2 is not really that important. Wide receiver 1 and 2, maybe even 3 is important. 4 is probably not. Tight ends, whatever, not really big deal. But your defense is going to be a big deal since you get the O-line and the rest of the supporting cast.
Yeah, I think so. When do you pick a defense? Like what round?
You can go round 1, I think, on this league.
Wow.
I mean, you
This
get
is gonna
their
be weird,
you get
man.
their defense, you get their O-line, but it's okay if people think it's dumb or it's just weird. But it actually, while doing this, because we've just been doing fantasy for so many years, we don't really question the system. It really points out a lot of flaws with fantasy. We draft these wide receivers who get 3-yard catches in PPR. We draft quarterbacks at the very end of the draft. Like, that's not the most valuable position. Like, it's obviously the most valuable position in football. And we draft like 7 running backs. It's like, what? We drafted running back round 1. We drafted running back round 3, round 4, round 5, round 7, and round 10. What the hell? What do we do? How is that?
It's due to scarcity. That's the only reason.
Yeah, no, I know why. Like, I'm not saying we're dumb for doing that. I'm saying the system, maybe we need to rethink that. Because why is because in the NFL, it's the complete opposite.
Opposite, yeah.
I just went over this point with somebody. Look at every team in recent years that overpay, or just like I'm not gonna say overpay because I don't even want to make that assessment, that dished out a ton of money for a running back / drafted a running back in the top 4. All the teams are a mess. And the Cowboys are in the best situation. Let's start off with them. They dished a lot of money to Zeke, drafted him early, but still, they had a disaster year last year. One of the most disappointing years ever for any team. It was so disgusting. So they're in a bit of a mess. They got to work out all these contracts and stuff. Now let's go on to the other teams that are in huge messes. Jaguars drafted Fournette, not good. Rams drafted and paid Gurley. They released him. They're a mess.
Still have to pay him, though.
Completely mismanaged that team. They're doing so many stuff. And then now we have Christian McCaffrey. Panthers are, can we even?
The Jets, can we talk about Le'Veon and the Jets?
I guess so. Yeah, they paid too. I didn't even think about that one. Yeah, they paid a ton for a running back. And basically, according to Coach Gase, they overpaid for him. He basically said that.
For sure.
He's like, I love Bell. But I wouldn't have spent that money on him.
This is why the Steelers didn't pay for him. This is exactly why.
That's why. And the Steelers actually gave him an offer better, I think. It was great an offer that much, but he wanted way more, and he had to settle for this Jets offer, which was still very big for a running back. And that's what Gase said. The GM's fired, and Gase said, "Look, I like Bell, but I wouldn't have paid him that much. I just think we spent a lot on him."
And he was right.
And yeah, look at all these teams. Like, they all suck. But what do we do in fantasy? We go for the running back right away, and it's just kind of like, what? Like, quarterback should be most important. That's why a lot of fantasy leagues are doing super flex and dual quarterback, which is kind of weird because no one starts 2 quarterbacks. But once you do that, now the quarterback position becomes very scarce and very important. And that's when you see Patrick Mahomes and Lamar almost always go in the first round in a 2 quarterback league where you have to start 2. Because once you get into the teen rounds, you're starting to draft players like Dalton and Stidham and all these players that may not, like Brissett starts getting drafted, like players that may not even see the field. So yeah, it just makes me rethink. I think this Madden thing is going to be really cool. We're going to hit some road bumps, but we'll be posting it on the YouTube channel. So yeah, and DQ says that's why Superflex needs to be mainstream. I get it, but that's the thing. No NFL team plays with 2 quarterbacks though. And I think that's why it will never be super mainstream. Because look, exactly. on a team, if a lot of teams like ran with 2 quarterbacks, like they split it quarter by quarter, half by half, then it would just make a ton of sense. But because there's only one franchise quarterback on a team, and that's the guy you want, it just I don't know. It just seems kind of weird. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just letting you know why it won't be mainstream ever. So yeah, very excited. Hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Hope you guys are enjoying The Last Dance. And oh boy, are we doing this next week, Mike?
I'm down if you guys are.
Oh, we're doing it. So I think we're gonna do it, and like to counter, we'll just put up a lot of football content as well. We'll try to do both. It'll be tough. But we'll put up a lot of football podcasts and a lot of football content on the other channels and other social media platforms, while we might be reviewing the Last Dance once a week. Might as well. And if we don't have a lot of time, we'll just hop on really quick, 15 minutes, talk about it, maybe shed a tear for Kobe, maybe talk about Rodman, and oh boy, that retirement baseball conspiracy. That's going to be the episode I'd be looking forward to.
Armin Electra's in it too. She's making a cameo.
Oh, so man.
I'm in it for that, just for nostalgia.
All right, let's do it, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We're all over the place: YouTube, Spotify, Google, Apple, the whole shebang. Leave a thumbs up for your boy on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to both YouTube channels, Fantasy Couch and Fantasy Couch Podcast. Peace out.